Let's talk about the subs that happened in the 62nd minute. Christian Eriksen comes in for Bruno. Wout Weghorst comes in for Martial. Elanga comes in for Sancho. Those, I think in hindsight, we can look back and say, maybe that wasn't the right time to make those subs, or maybe not all of them all at once, because you have to go kill off the game. And you had players that were still being dangerous up until that point. And I think that's where the game maybe started to shift. And obviously these are two own goals, two freaky own goals. So I want to kind of keep it in context, but it still felt like a collapse that we've seen from previous Manchester United teams.
Do you know what, Jimmy? I know people might not like me saying this, but if from a football
preface.
Listen, if you look at what Erik Ten Hag has done at Manchester United, you have to trust him and believe in the manager. I feel for me, when I look at that performance, that wasn't anything that the manager did. That was the players there not performing to the level that's expected. I'm sorry, because again, they had opportunities to kill that game. There's only so much a manager can do. The players didn't take that responsibility on. Like you said, and I think the word that you use, Jimmy, is the best word to describe that performance of Manchester United. Emotional. Manchester United players let the emotions of that game get too much for them in some of the tackles, the mistakes, and the whole Bruno Fernandes situation. They were playing that game too emotional, while Sevilla weren't. And like another comments came in, I think you'd have to say, like Michael said before, and someone else said, Sevilla really are the Real Madrid of this competition, because to be 2-0 down at Old Trafford and to come back, and again, of all people to score own goal, it had to be Harry Maguire. And who's one of the players that keeps on popping up the most where Manchester United want to get rid of or might be looking for a change? Harry Maguire is one of those players of all people. I mean, look at that. That photo there could not be comical enough. Of all people, and that's the Manchester United captain there. And look at the leap, by the way. He's got
you can basically spit on Casemiro's face.
Casemiro there.
For those that can't see it, you just have to take our word for it.
But I honestly, listen, don't get me wrong. I'll put the blame on the manager's feet when he deserves it. But with those quality of players and how he has turned Manchester United around in such a short space of time, for where I've seen consistency, I've seen style of play, I've seen a belief, I've seen a foundation being built. Those substitutions he made for me, I don't think you can blame the manager. I think it's the Manchester United players in this scenario who need to take more responsibility, because Erik Ten Hag has higher standards. And for me, Man United players let themselves down, and this game feels like a loss more so than a draw.
Well, I think what's interesting is that with regard to the players, they're the ones that are going to have to show up in leg 2, and they have some experience to lean on this particular season. They lost at home in the group stages to Real Sociedad and then went down to Spain and got a 1-0 result. So they've shown, Lahoud, that they've got a little bit backbone, especially under Erik Ten Hag. But let's talk about Sevilla very quickly. Not in a great run of form. Currently 13th in La Liga. They finished in the top 4 the last 3 years. They're not going to finish in the top 4 this season. They're getting close to the relegation zone. They should be fine, but they're just closer to that than they are to the top 4. And they were terrible away from home in the last 8 games. 1 win, 1 draw, 6 losses. So this is kind of against type. Maybe they just felt like they had nothing to lose. Let's just go for it. Even at 2-0, they still found a way to just put the ball in dangerous areas and hope that something happens. But I do think that some bad luck actually struck Manchester United here. So I'm trying not to get emotional like Bruno Fernandes about this and trying to stay a little bit steady. but for you as a United supporter, I can understand why you'd be emotional about it.
Yeah, and now that I have my rant out of my system, no cuss words, back to the
I don't want
order.
you to get peeved again, Lahoud.
Yeah, that was a sophisticated word I used. I could have used a lot of the other words. I'm working on my dictionary words for House of Champions. It's the gift that keeps on giving, just like Harry Maguire with his memes, own goals, and defending this season for Manchester United. No, as we said, it's very disappointing. But in Ten Hag and in this group's ability to react, now, this is where you are going to find out what type of Manchester United do we really have. When things are going well, when Marcus Rashford is scoring goals left and right, it's easy for everyone to turn up. I'm looking at the bench. I'm looking at a player like Christian Eriksen. You've given him 2 games or a few games to get his feet back underneath. I think that he will be a major catalyst. Can you get him fit? Can you give him a start in that return leg in Spain? I think you have to have him there to dictate a bit more, maybe push Bruno. It's all to play for in the second leg, though.
You have no chance but to start Christian Eriksen. Let me just let that out there. Like, let's be real. Like, you look at everything right now, my biggest concern for you guys is Martinez missing. He might not be everyone's cup of tea.
And Varane. Varane might be out as well.
Martinez and Varane missing is the biggest concern that Manchester United should have right now, because you have a very soft centre-back pairing. You're going away to Seville. I think that Sevilla are going to be very, very confident that they can get this win, especially with their home crowd. I guarantee it's going to be a sellout crowd because it's Manchester United coming into town. That's their biggest thing. So Erik Ten Hag's going to have to come with a complete different game plan, and it's going to be counter-attacking. That's going to be his only opportunity right now, play counter-attacking football. But again, you don't have the pace of Marcus Rashford. So how are you going to do it? Workhorse can work as hard as he wants. Martial can be a pivot. But again, now you might have to take the chance with starting Pillistri. For me, I think he's one of the players that you're going to have to start and go with him and Sancho and trying to break those lines.
Yeah, Nige, but let's hit on Anthony Martial. 2 games in a row, goal at the weekend, and then gets an assist. You have to ride that sort of high from Martial, who's an inconsistent player, and he's been blighted by injuries. Jimmy, you brought up his goal-scoring record. That's when he's available. He'll be going back to a very familiar place in Sevilla, where he had a bit of a resurgence or else he would have been tossed out with the trash like the rest of them in that summer clear-out that Ten Hag did. He's a player I'm looking at, and you got to give Sabitzer his dues as well, playing in an advanced role, winding back the clock like he did at RB Leipzig, like we see him for the Austrian national team. He's the same guy who had a brilliant assist to Marcus Rashford against Everton. He's coming into his own. Those 2 players, golf clap for them. The rest of the team, I'm upset with you. That is my elementary school way of saying I'm pissed.
All right. I think that you're going to have Harry Maguire. You're going to have probably Victor Lindelof as the center back pairing. Fred might come back into the team. You could get a little defensive minded, Nigel. I'll give you the last voice here before we take our first break. But what do you think the projected starting lineup would be? Because you throw Pellistri out there, but you still have Jadon Sancho. You have Anthony.
You're going to have to go for experience, Jimmy. I think when it comes to a game like this of this magnitude, whether you like it or not, you have to start with your most experienced players, and then from then you can rely on the exuberance of youth around that 70-minute mark to try and make an impact. But you have to go experience. You have to be disciplined. You're away from home. The atmosphere is going to be intimidating. Sevilla definitely is going to be a sellout crowd because it's Manchester United coming into town. And as much as they don't have anything domestically to cheer about, this is something they can get behind the team to put away their domestic worries. And it will be a huge scalp for them again. You know, beating Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in world football. That plays a part. But for me, Jimmy, with these type of games, with what's at stake now, you have to go for experience and you have to be disciplined, defensively well organized, and it has to be counter-attacking. I think the only young person I might start with, I don't know if Michael will agree with me, is probably Pellistri. You know, I've seen Pellistri play before, and I think he's the only one you can use as a real big outlet. He's raw talent, raw pace, similar to Garnacho. I think he could be the one that can be your outlet for this game. But other than that, you have to be disciplined and experienced.
Okay, so
Yeah,
hold on really quick, Lahoud, and then I'll give you the final one. I want to actually keep going. I love talking about Manchester United. They have 5 away games in the Europa League, right? Group stages, knockout rounds, 4 wins and 1 draw. Away to Sheriff, 2-0 win. Away to Omonia, 3-2. Away to Real Sociedad, 1-0. Barcelona, 2-2. Real Betis in the last round, a 1-0 win. In that game, Lahoud, right? You're talking about experience. You have Harry Maguire and Lissandro that started that one. Malacia and Wan-Bissaka started that. That's going to be very close to their back four. Bruno's going to be out. You got Casemiro in. Fred started that game. Pellistri, to Nigel's point, started that game. Rashford played out wide, and Wout Weghorst started up top. You're going to see something similar, and that team went down and got a 1-0 result against Real Betis in Spain. So it's not outside the realm of possibility. But, yeah, you got to be deflated if you're a United fan. So, yeah, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm glad we're touching on Fred. Surprise exclusion from the 11, and it paid off offensively. Sabitzer getting the 2 goals, looking more like himself in attack. But Fred, his best performances for United have come on the road in this competition. In the matchup against Barcelona, I thought he was one of the best players, looking more like Xavi than Fred, or maybe even Rivaldo with some of his final passes in the final third. I think that could be a disruptive sort of combination. Sevilla, they're going to want to grind this out. The longer this goes 0-0, this favors them, and it's a bit of deja vu again in Andalusia. United, they will look to get a goal because Sevilla, they give up goals at home. We're giving them so much credit. One of their big problems this season is they're not so much the fortress as they once were at home. They do have backline woes. They showed it tonight, and they will continue to show it the rest of the season.